I
Thanks, guys.
love that you're challenging everything. Why are we doing it that way? Can't we do it better? Can't we be operationally efficient? Welcome back to the Pursuit of Profit podcast. I hope you enjoy this episode with Brigham Dallas, founder of Hello Sugar. Today we're discussing a disruptor in the hair removal industry, how AI has replaced the receptionist. Why is this like for the National Brand Fund led to the creation of a marketing division for the franchisees, and how you could start this franchise in a salon suite for under $150,000. We hope you enjoy the show, and please follow us as we drop new episodes each week on Wednesdays.
Anything you want to talk about that we should touch on? I mean, I've listened to a bunch of your other pods. People are buying you, man. Like, you are so impressive on these podcasts. People are investing in you. Not only are you disrupting the hair removal space here, but you're operating very differently as a franchisor. There's a lot to talk about, from your disdain and hatred of the brand fund to the way you're utilizing technology and AI. I heard you say at one point that you have like this obsessive personality. So take us back. I'm imagining Elon Musk, right? Like we have to make humans multiplanetary. Before I die, we have to get to Mars. Like, did you start off like, Americans are too hairy, I need hairless Americans? Like, how did this all come about?
Hilarious. Well, thank you guys for doing your homework on Hello Sugar. And for me, I feel honored and impressed. Like, man, you guys are amazing. Story how it all got started. I'm 26 years old. I'm working in the scammy diet pill industry, selling diet pills, muscle pills, dick pills online. And I absolutely hate it. It's unethical. It's dishonest. It's not something I like doing. I lost sleep at night, and I just needed a way out. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she was like, oh, I had to pay $20,000 in taxes last year. She was complaining. And I'm like, wait a minute, $20,000? Like, how much money did you make? She's a single mom and she's working part-time. So I'm like, this is interesting. And she said, oh, I made 100,000 last year. I'm like, wait, like, run those numbers by me. She's like, well, I do $45 Brazilians. I do 4 of those an hour. Like, you make 180 an hour. You make more than a lawyer. And I was like, well, what's your cost of product? She goes, it's like $3 a wax. I'm like, this is incredible. Like, well, how did you find your customers? She goes, I just ran a Groupon. I don't really know. They found me. And I'm like, okay. And then like, how do you get them to come back? And she's like, well, hair grows back every month. So they just come back every month. They just keep rebooking with me. I'm like, this business sounds stupid, like how good it is. And so I was like, well, would you fly down to Phoenix? She's living in Salt Lake, and come in and just like share your knowledge with one of my trainees. I'm going to start a business. And she goes, Brigham, I'm scared to do it because I think you will be my competition one day. And I'm like, this is 2015 me. I'm like, there's no way. I want one location. I don't have these like ideas of grandeurism. I just want one location so I can get out of the scammy diet pill business. I laughed at her and I said, I'll never be your competition. Fast forward till 2021, when we start franchising, I had 10 locations. Today, we're the fastest growing beauty brand in the nation. We have 110 locations open as of the end of December. And we've been doing it for 3 years, 2021 to 2024. Until this day, we've never had a contract. We've never had a agreement in place, but I will not put a location near hers to be her competition.
Wow. She has no involvement in the business, and you're honoring that. Classy. Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah. Pretty funny though. Like, it's just the way that all worked out. Like, it's pretty crazy.
What exact city is she in?
I don't want to give
that's fine.
notice
that's
to her. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Good for you though.
Yeah.
People forget where they come from, right?
Yeah.
It's like, listen, you helped me out in a time of need. I'm not going to hurt you. That is unusual today, because people have a very short memory and they have no problem steamrolling over people and disposing of relationships. So good for you. It says a lot about your character.
You look at it, you're like, okay, you can become wealthy, but you can never get your honor back, your word back, right? Like, it's not going to materially change my life one way or another if I had a location in that area. But it does change her life materially if I put a location in that area. So
that's right.
And karma.
So keep going with the background. So your friend making money.
Yeah.
You decide. So there was a piece in there about teaching classes on how to make people money and something about selling worms. What's that about?
Man, you guys have heard it all.
You can't skip the worms, man.
Okay. Let's start from the beginning. So prior to this, I'm in college and I want a business more than a girlfriend. Like, literally, that's the only thing I care about in life. I just want a business. And like, I'm like thinking of everything possible. And then one day it rains and a worm crawls across the ground. And so I'm like, well, maybe like, let's just go check it out. So I check online and I'm like, there's these crappy websites. I don't know how to build a website. I don't know anything about any of that stuff, but I'm like, I can do it better than these guys. So I drop out of school for the summer. And I spend all summer long learning about worms, learning how to code, learning how to do SEO, and build a website on selling worms online. And then fast forward like 8 months, I've got a YouTube channel called Dallas the Worm Man. It's still alive.
Oh
it's
my
hilarious.
God.
I've got
great.
like long hair. I fake a redneck accent, and I just talk about composting worms and fishing and stuff. And so I've become like the biggest salesman of worms in the country. And I drop out of school. I moved to Thailand, and I just live in a bungalow for like a while. And that was like my life for a couple of years of just like traveling the world. For like 5 years, I lived out of a suitcase and just traveled until I started Hello Sugar. Fast forward, I start Hello Sugar. And I didn't have a ton of money. Like the worms aren't paying the bills, guys. It's not like the best business in the world, but I had enough, right? And so I drop out of like working with this diet company I didn't like, and I build a one-room suite. And this is in the back of a plastic surgeon's office. My total outlay of cost at that time was like $3,000. I just paid for advertising, and I paid for like, you know, like the training that I paid my girl in Utah to come down and train. And we didn't know anything. We had to figure it all out. I didn't know how to do ads or any of the other stuff that we have now, but it was just, you know, trial and error. And then once I was 6 months in and I had enough money, I took my life savings. I took all my credit cards that I could. I took a debt from a loan and a line of credit I had for another business I had. So like literally everything I had, and I put it into building a flagship. And this is important to my story because I remember going to the location we built our first, you know, 1,200 square foot box, and looking at this and being like, this is going to like ruin my life if it doesn't work. And I went there many times. I went there in the middle of the night. I went there during the daytime, lunch, dinner. I just was obsessed with learning about this spot and thinking, is this the spot? And the comfort that I had was I knew that as long as this market that was like, had brand exposure, right? Like I'm in a shopping center. As long as that didn't perform worse than the suite that I'm in, I could pay my rent. And if I could pay my rent, I knew I wouldn't go bankrupt. And so this concept of build a suite, incubate it, convert it to a flagship started to take fruition. I opened my flagship. I closed my suite. I moved all my clients to the flagship. And then instantly that month, I grew $10,000 in revenue just in the next month because of all the brand exposure that happened. And now I can pay my bills. I feel okay. I'm not like strapped, and like things are okay. Right. And so then when I had a little bit of money, I built another suite. And then I turned that into a flagship, and I built another suite. And this piecemeal of doing one suite, one flag a year for 5 years, I had 10 locations. Wow. And they were profitable and healthy. And it was a slow mover, but I was able to build something really incredible during that time. And then, you know, I had a good business. At that time, I was teaching a class on how to start a 6-figure business for $3,000 or less. Because when I was in college, I was broke. So how do I help these students learn the code of business to build their own thing? And I loved it. It was my like calling in life. I love helping people start businesses. It's like the thing I love more than anything else. And so marrying helping people start businesses with my own business just felt like the natural progression. And that's where the franchising started.
I have a lot of questions.
Go back to the I wanted a business more than I wanted a girlfriend. What was, at such a young age, what was the why behind that? What was motivating you? Did you want to be rich as a young kid, or was it about legacy, taking over the world? Like what was that?
I honestly don't know, Justin. Like I think we look back and we were so articulate about what the driving causes are. At the time, I just wanted it. I loved being in business and like starting businesses and building things. When I was 8 years old, I had my first business. I was selling golf balls to golfers. I'd stand in the sunlight so the golf balls would be white. I started doing volume plays. I'd bring buckets out and be like, you got to buy the whole bucket, guys. It's $100 for this bucket. And just like working that. And then in high school, I had an eBay business where I found this guy making like nautical quilts. I had all my money from my golf balls. And I was like, how much can I get for $2,000? And this guy brought a truckload of comforters into my garage. My mom couldn't even park her car in the garage anymore because I had so many comforters in there. And I started my eBay business. You know, it's just like in my DNA, I just wanted business. I love the idea of winning, you know, of selling something online better than somebody else and
love that.
And competing. It's fun for me.
You two guys have a lot in common. It's more than just skiing and now golf balls we're learning.
I did the same thing.
Cliff was in the same business as a kid.
Really? Yeah. Amazing,
yeah.
Cliff.
I lived across the street from a country club. I was in New York, and
Oh, wow.
I started doing it like age 6, 7, 8, all the way into early teens until I could get a job, obviously.
You go hunt on the weekend when the balls are
I'd, I'd,
lost
hunt,
and
I'd hunt at dusk
yep.
when the park rangers were patrolling, and I would hide in the woods because I clam raked. I had a telescopic pole, so I'd rake them out of the ponds and, scour the bushes and find them, and they're rough.
Yeah, exactly the same business.
I loved it.
Wear the boots so you don't step on a snake. That was my thing in South Carolina. But yeah, absolutely.
We had muskrats, and we had oh yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot going on. Yeah, there's a whole, we could take that offline, but that was a very interesting time. There's some, I love that the outsider comes into franchising, and I really want to spend some time on where your head was at when you said, we're going to do this in shared space. Number one, shared space wasn't even a thing, right? It became a thing, right? So I'm not even sure what year you're in where you're doing it. It's really kind of a WeWork model. I'm going to go grab 8,000 square feet, break it up into little 10 by 10 rooms, and then I'm going to rent them out to estheticians and, laser hair removal and, manis and pedis, etc. Where did this come from? And I'm very curious how you're getting them comfortably out of that unit and then saying, time to spend 400 grand, 300 grand, whatever the number is, in the flagship, which I'll refer to as the main brick and mortar retail location.
One, like, understand that, again, I wasn't as articulate starting the franchise as I am now with this. I didn't have this like master strategy. I started a franchise knowing that I could help my closest friends start a Hello Sugar, and that could be a vehicle for them to have an amazing career like I've had with this. And so this was like, let's help my friends out. That was number one. And my friends are not like the wealthy, come from money kind of friends. They were, putting all of their scraps into this. And so I had two in particular that started the franchise early on with me. And I said, look, if you start one, I'll start one too. So they started in different markets, and I moved to Nashville and started a franchise in Nashville at the same time with them. And it was the salon suite concept. And so knowing that they couldn't afford or get a loan for a big location, just like I couldn't in the beginning, suites had to be the play. And that first year, it was all that. It was just suites. And so naturally, it started to evolve from, wanting to have these bigger things to just like, let's get mass market penetration through the suite concept to get our name out there, to grow faster. Because when people, honestly, when people look at units, they don't think of the difference between a flag and a suite. They think the suites are the same as a flag to everybody else. To us, we know the difference, but to everybody else, it's a unit, right? And so I wanted mass growth. I wanted to be fast with this, to pivot, to take over the market. Now, the suites don't do the profits that the flagships do. So in a suite, we're looking at 200,000 to 400,000, 300,000 call it average revenue, and in the profit range, we're looking at somewhere in the range of 40 to 80,000, 60,000 kind of median time period, and that's not enough to quit your job on. Right. So then when we change to a flagship, we're going to average much more than that, anywhere between 500 to 1.2 million range for the flagships, with a very healthy profit on that. That's anywhere between 2 to 4 times profit in the flagships. And so this starts to be something that if I have 2 or 3 of these, let's start a suite, let's incubate it, let's start 2 or 3 suites, let's find the best location. We'll turn that to a flagship while we continue gestating the other 2. Then we'll turn those to flagships as well. We could get 3 locations off the ground in 2 to 4 months. Wow. And that's really compelling to somebody.
I know you have no site selection. Selection. There's no permitting. There's no construction. Yeah. It's just boom. Sign a lease. It's month to month. Maybe it's 6 months. I don't know.
You are going through the site selection process, but you're making money in a suite while you're doing it.
Yeah. There's 0 foot traffic in a suite. So it has to be a really strong ad presence. Like, we have to do marketing really well to make that work. Our marketing is like best in class. I mean, that's where we spend a lot of our dollars in figuring out how to do marketing for the franchisee. The franchisee literally just says, I want to spend more. I want to spend less. There's not much involved in the marketing side for them.
You've heard from some incredible franchise brands right here on the podcast. If you're sitting there wondering which opportunity might be the right fit for you, we're here to help. At Phrenosity, we offer free consulting services to aspiring small business owners just like you. We'll guide you through a focused, strategic process to help you identify the best franchise match. Call or text us at 277-3710. Or visit us on the web at franosity.com. That's FRANOCITY.com. We look forward to working with you. I want to walk through this conceptually, though. So they're purchasing a franchise from you with the understanding of what? You're going to enter initially in a salon suite. How long can I stay there until I need to go flagship?
We give 3 years conditional that certain things are met, right? Like I don't want somebody investing in a flagship if that location isn't profitable, doing a certain number of new client count per month, or if that location has too few of people in it. So there's some areas like we're in like towns of 100,000 or less. I can't do much on the marketing side. And realistically, a $400,000 build for a flagship just doesn't make sense. They're going to stay a suite. Or a location that we thought was going to be incredible, and it's just not performing to the level that we thought it would. You could either move the location, it's going to take you a week to do it, or you keep it there and it's making enough profit that I want to keep, but like it's not really flagship material. So we have those conditions in the terms. But in 3 years, you've got enough time in business that you can become a flagship with a loan from the like an SBA loan. So you should have enough time to go and build into a flagship by then.
Cliff, can we touch on the service offering here? I think it's important. I mean, there are people out there who may not know what sugaring is, right? So it's all hair removal. There are brands that do laser. There are brands that do waxing, and there are brands that do sugaring. You do all three.
Yes.
Can you explain the difference and why? Why would someone do waxing over sugaring or vice versa? Like who's the customer for each line of service?
Yeah, and really, part of this, Justin, is this is not I'm vegan, I never eat meat, right? I'm not vegan, but that's like, for an example, this is not the customer base, right? Like there's times in your life when you will shift your purchasing decisions, and we need to be able to account for that in the business. So for example, if you come in and you're a hairy dude, the first time you come in, you should wax. You should not sugar because it's going to be extremely painful. If you come back in 4 weeks, sugaring is going to feel way better than waxing. And so you should start on with the sugaring. And at some point in your career, when you have enough money, you're probably going to want to switch over to laser and just do full hair removal if you're consistent with this and don't enjoy the hair. And so there's this homogeneity of like, it's fluid. It's not like distinct market categories. But because we touch on all three, our average order values, our unit value economics are much better. It's very expensive to get somebody in the door for laser hair removal. The cost of acquisition is very high. It's very cheap to get somebody in the door for a free wax or free bikini. But then our process of getting them in the door for cheap, upselling them to a membership, our sales team is like insane. Our unit economics right now are 1 in 2 people to walk in the door will get a membership with us across our salons. It's 45%, but it's about 1 in 2. And then once they're on the membership for a while, nudging through all of our communications to push them to laser, which is very profitable for us, has been a game changer in our business.
All right. So if has overgrowth, right? I've never trimmed the hedges before. We're not going to go in and take it down to golf course length. We got to come in with the hedge trimmer first. We got to take it down, right? And then there's
the wax.
There's kind of a progression.
Yeah, there's a progression. Yeah,
it's
that's
wax,
right.
Then sugar.
Okay.
If you have like sensitive skin, like let's say you're
right. Sugaring is literally sugar and water. Like it's completely organic.
Yeah, it looks like honey. It looks exactly like honey. You can tell the difference. And it's a sticky, fluid candy like feel. It feels like honey. And when you put it on your skin, when you're putting it on, it pulls the hair. If the hairs are short, it doesn't really pull the hair. So it doesn't hurt going on, and it hurts less going off than wax does. So thick hairs, long hairs, not good for sugar.
Got it.
It's 2+ times. It's amazing. It was serendipitous for us. I didn't know what sugaring was either. Like I just know everything about waxing and just knew what I was doing. Like I named it because I'm from South Carolina, and sugar is a term of endearment. And when I was looking at like all of the competitors in the space, I built a word cloud of like all the most important things for a positive experience, and comfort was the most important one. And that registers strong for me, Southern comfort. I wanted people to feel comfortable. So like, hello, sugar.
That's what I said to him. Hey, honey. Hey, babe. Hey, sugar. I thought you were using it in that way. I didn't know you were using it literally as a service.
We started within 3 months. I'm working reception. Hey, do you guys sugar? I didn't see sugaring on your menu. I'm like, I don't even know what that is, you know? And then eventually now half of our clients are sugaring clients. And it's like, it's total serendipity that this happened that way.
Cliff, there was a brand a couple of years ago that started in Canada. They were just making their way to the US, doing laser in Canada. And their whole thing was when they brought the brand to the US, they were dropping the laser offering. I thought it was because of different state-specific licensing requirements for laser that were going to be prohibitive to the brand. So they were just going to kind of remove the offering altogether. How are you doing this, Brigham, with laser?
Yeah, you know, talking about my obsessive personality. So when I decided to go forward with laser, I read all the FDDs of my competitors this year, and I noticed one of them in particular were growing in the laser category. And so when I saw that, I said, we should look into this. And so I dropped being a CEO for 2 months. I have an amazing team. Our team's absolutely rock star. I let the other team manage the company, and I just went full-fledged into laser. I learned everything about every device. I learned everything about like the way it works. And I started doing pricing models. I started interviewing customers. I built websites and landing pages and flows. And we built out this part of the business. And I learned early on that it's very difficult to get a esthetician to give her client to somebody else. It's not an economic mentality. It's like you have surplus and then like, you know, you have fear that somebody's going to take your business. So they would not give their clients up to somebody else. That's the way they think. And, so I knew that I had to train all my estheticians on laser. And so I looked at the requirements. Arizona has the most requirements in the country for training. I looked at the national schools that exist. There were only 2 of them. And I was like, okay, there's 2 schools that train nationally. I'll just become one of those schools. So I built a school called NILA, the National Institute of Laser Aesthetics, where we did a 40-hour didactic. I teach half of this whole thing. So built like 600 slides. My director of education is ChatGPT. I knew nothing about this business before this. And now I know like so much because of, you know, ChatGPT. And we just built an educational platform. Now we can go anywhere in the country, certify estheticians that allow this. There's a few states that don't allow estheticians to be certified, but we can certify the estheticians on laser and give them an amazing program and training. A lot of it's online, a lot of it's leveraging technology. And now we can do laser in pretty much all the states except for like 4 or 5.
Okay.
Very interesting.
They actually left. My understanding is they left the US. They said, we're going back to Canada. Yeah, it just didn't work out. And then I heard they wanted to come back, right, Justin? Didn't we hear recently
I have not heard that name in a while.
Yeah, I thought that's how that name popped up again. Yeah, they wanted to come back in the States. Yeah, talk about a lack of due diligence. They came here and were like dumbfounded that they weren't able to just start lasering people. So I mean, they didn't dig in and really do any research at any event. How is the mix now in terms of revenue, where it used to just be 100% in the waxing category, I would imagine? How is it now? Where are you seeing the money flow in the service line?
What I'm seeing from the trends, and we started in June, consistently 20% of the revenue is now laser. And it's almost entirely from people switching from laser from their own salons. But the profit margin is so good on this. The profit margin is so high because you don't have any cost of material. It's a higher wage, but the commission for the employee is not like proportional, right? It's up a little bit, but the wages or the service is up triple. And so we have a really good gross profit margin on the laser side of things. And so it just changes the economics completely of that business. So I started in June. People wanted to know what was going on before they really got into it. Today we have 17 locations with laser, and the ones getting laser are all buying more. I hope to have by the end of next year all locations in the company, except for the states. Some states like New Jersey, they require a doctor to do it. I hope to have the entire country built out with laser by the end of next year.
Okay. Is it expensive, the hardware, the equipment?
It's relatively nominal. I mean, you know, when you factor in the price of the equipment, the price of the doctor, it takes 1 to 2 memberships a month to break even. And then after that, it's all profit.
Go back to marketing. You were starting to touch on that. Talk about who's doing the marketing. How are we finding these people? You mentioned there's no brand fund, which is I've never heard of that in franchising. So that's unique. So talk about the strategy here. I think this could be something that you may be a trendsetter here, and a lot of franchisors could follow if they can make this work. So tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, let's start off with like, The pushback I get from franchisees is like, what if you had this fee? Like, I'll become unprofitable, et cetera. The franchisor at a high level, I understand now what a franchisor should be doing. The franchisor should take economies of scale that happen because you have 100 units and pass on the savings of the economies of scale to the franchisee. For us, we took sugar, which we were buying at $28 a can, to $16 a can for all of our franchisees because we were able to make it in-house. And we had the ability to make it in-house where if you weren't a volume play, you couldn't do that. In the reception space, we were able to invest over $250,000 into AI technology to reduce the cost of reception and make our salons go completely receptionless. And that reduces like our expenses for reception. In the marketing space, that's my background. So for 10 years, when I was traveling the world and doing all these things, I had a digital agency and I was running Fortune 500 company like level digital marketing. So I was blessed enough to be able to spend millions of dollars a year in this space and learn Google and Meta like the back of my hand. And that's what I taught at the university. I taught high level, how to set up campaigns, strategies, et cetera. And so, no, why we don't have a brand fund? It's the same thing as taxes. I mean, taxes are extremely inefficient from the government. It's the same thing here. Like you're giving 2% without any qualification on performance to a company who isn't incentivized to do better for you, right? Like you see things, they'll just spend money on radio ads or like they have to spend it somewhere. They spend it on a billboard, but they don't really know if it works or not the same way you would think about these things. The way we do it instead is we say, we're going to be paid for performance and performance only. So it's $7.50 management fee for every completed appointment where you make money. And we have all of the analytics broken down from the cost per lead to when the lead becomes a booking, to when the booking comes in and completes an appointment, to how many memberships are created from those leads. And we can look at it and say, this is your break-even cost of marketing when you include the $7.50 management fee. And these are all the channels we're spending on. And this is what we recommend based on real data where you should spend your money. And every month we build videos. We have a full filming platform, like you see here, like it's a full studio. We film videos, we film advertising, we syndicate it across a couple of locations. And the stuff that works, we syndicate across the franchise to lower the economic cost of advertising for our franchisees. And in this way, we have absolutely dominated the advertising space. There's no one that comes close to what we're doing right now.
So the franchisee decides how much money they want to put into advertising each month. The money goes to Hello Sugar Corporate. You spend the money based on what's working right now, what campaigns are working, and then you take a fee for every appointment generated.
Yeah, exactly. So they'll come to us and say, hey, my budget this month is $1,200. That's like an average budget right now.
Yep.
And then we'll look at Meta, Google, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, Tinder, Grindr. I mean, like we kind of have a whole gamut of places that we play. And then we go in and we just try to build our advertising platform based on where the numbers actually lie. And then if we do really well, then the management company makes some money. If it doesn't do well, then it doesn't make any money. And they're incentivized to lower your cost per acquisition so that the management company can make money. The management company is a subsidiary owned by Hello Sugar. There's a team of 8 of them. Their full-time job is to build really quality campaigns for our franchisees.
It's unique. It's literally pay for performance. So are you still requiring them to spend money locally, or no, this is it? This is the spend.
95% of franchisees don't do anything outside of our marketing program. It literally takes the whole equation away from, trying to figure out marketing. It's like, hey, I just want to spend more money. My books are light. I'm going to spend less because my books are full. That's kind of the binary decision that people have in their mind.
That's wild. What exactly is the franchisee doing? Their incentive to close the deal, because I'm a little confused on what you said. So the $750, you made a comment that if they generate a point and that makes money. Are they just paying for the lead?
They're paying for the completed appointment, not the lead.
They're not paying for the lead. They're paying for a completed appointment. The person has to show for something, whether it's a phone call or an in-person visit.
Yeah, we started out with lead generation, but the problem was, Facebook's algorithm can find people. There's some people that will fill out a deal and never show up.
Right.
And so we get markets where that happens frequently. And then the cost per completed appointment ended up being higher. And so we had to change our flows, our messaging, and everything to make sure that we're incentivizing the marketing team the same way as we're incentivizing the franchisee, alignment, right? So that we get completed appointments. Franchisee doesn't care about leads. They care about people coming in the door.
I'm telling you, that is incredible.
Thanks.
750, you're able to actually do that. I mean, some of these Google pay-per-click campaigns are more than that per click. You're able to monetize this.
Yeah, I mean, we drive massive volume for our franchisees. I mean, by the time they open the door, we can fill a schedule. And we start marketing 5 days before. We don't start like months in advance. This isn't a huge pre-sale. I mean, we're talking about small numbers to create huge guerrilla warfare-like effects in the marketplace.
And you know that 45% of them are going to become members.
What happens with us, and this is kind of going back to the franchisor responsibility. I was in a meeting, this is early on, and I'm talking to a friend of mine who became a franchisee, and I'm spending an hour teaching them how to sell and teaching them how to train their staff on sales. And then he looks at me and he goes, Brigham, I don't know how to do that. You do that. So then I built a company called RemoteWorks. RemoteWorks has 3 main things that it does. Now 4, it's working on the 4th. The first one is it teaches esthetician sales. So we take our best salespeople, we built a course, and they do one-on-one training with anyone who's not performing to get their sales numbers up. And It's estheticians teaching estheticians, which is a phenomenal thing. Is the sales rate low? Send them to the course. The second thing they do is they certify estheticians on the quality of service, because our whole brand is built on less pain. It hurts less here. So we want to make sure that, all the processes are about reducing the pain for the customer. And I'm not going to go into specifics on how that works, but basically we have remote people training, grading, giving a course on how to do better, and teaching people how to be the best in the business in terms of actual service, because high service quality equals retention. And then the third thing that we do, and this is completely unique in the business, is we built a business called RemoteWorks that finds overseas employees to act as managers in your business. Now, I'm not talking like high accent, low wage, like workers in the Philippines or India. I'm talking they have masters in economics. They've worked in HR for 10 years. They've got a decade of experience in management. They speak great English. They went to American boarding schools. Like, these are like $60,000 to $80,000 employees that are working overseas. And 80% of the entire management of the salon can be done remote. The one-on-one thing you still have to do in person. It's the quality of the relationships that you still have to manage. We get the best in the business to manage our salons here. And so we've really taken out a lot of the choices that could make a franchisee fail, so that they can focus on growing the business into more units. They can focus on quality of relationships with their staff and enjoying the profits that come from a successful revenue generating business.
So walk me through this sales process. I'm on Facebook. I have a vacation planned. I click on an ad. It takes me to a landing page. How do I get information and actually sign? Like, there's no, I can't walk in. There's no receptionist. Who's answering my questions and signing me up for this membership?
Yeah, it's interesting. That part of the process, from lead generation to completed appointment, is very technical. And we have multiple ways that people can book. They can book through talking to our AI reception team. So it's like they think it's a person, but it's not a person.
Wow.
And this is interesting because in the business, I read a lot of the papers, and the papers said it's best that you tell the client that you're talking to a bot. And we found that when we did that, we had a higher no-show rate. So we're testing everything along the way. So we don't tell them they're talking to a bot, but if they ever say something that breaks the confidence of the bot that it can answer the question, we say, hold on a minute while I get that answer, and we send it to a human. So there's never a point where they're just feeling like they're not talking to somebody, because I think when people are talking to a human, they feel more guilty not showing up for that
commitment. I made a commitment.
Yeah. And so we saw a huge drop off in commitment when they were talking to a bot. We then send them to landing pages custom tailored to what they're trying to book at the location they're trying to book, which is an extremely impressive feat when you have 110 locations and a bot is handling all this communication. And we direct them either through lead gen on Facebook or whatever the channel is, to communication, to the website. So we have a variety of ways. And if they don't respond, we have, time-based nudges where we're texting them, hey, you still there? Hey, just wanted to ask you before I close this ticket, are you ready to book? Guys, let's book that appointment. We're finding ways to nudge them to get to that booking. And then we get the booking, and then we have to have multiple nudges before they actually come in for an appointment to make sure they show up, they're checked in, they know how to get into a suite, because that can be a little bit more difficult. I mean, it's a very complex and robust communication system that has to be developed to make this business work. And that's why I say we're a tech company that does waxing, not the other way around. We're a tech company that happens to be in the hair removal space.
I completely agree. I'm like, can you scale this to 200 plus locations? Is this scalable? Is this the business that you want to be in? What are your thoughts on this as you scale and open new locations?
Yeah. So when I built the franchise, I spent 1 year developing the reception. It took me a whole year. And I worked in the reception. I was answering appointments. You imagine, like, it's not common that a CEO of a company at that time, 10 locations, is like reception. But that's what I did all day long for a year. And I thought to myself, how can I do this at 1,000 locations? And it wasn't until I built the infrastructure to scale this, because once you have a business like let's say European Wax is 1,000 doors, it becomes infinitely complex to convert that over to a receptionless business. It's almost a fail. You're guaranteed to fail because of how many variables are involved. But for us in our location with 10, I could figure out all those mappings and booking flows using my voice ahead of time. And today, I mean, we could do 10,000 locations and we would be totally fine to be able to do that at this point.
Are you working on training a model for voice? Do you see that happening?
We are testing and piloting in Arizona. It's a little bit more expensive to do voice than text. So I like to push people to text. We've got about a 52% completion rate right now on voice, but I don't think the experience is ready to roll out. There's a company now in the UK that has almost flawless native sound to it. So in the voice space, you have to marry the voice with the logic. And those aren't all by the same companies. There's 3 companies involved. You have a voice company, you have a logic company, and you have a platform. And all 3 of those have to natively interact to make this work with our custom software for booking appointments. So it's a kind of a complex, infrastructure, but we're getting there. I think by the end of next year, we'll have a fully rolled out voice version of AI.
It's interesting. I bought a few hoodies a couple of weeks ago. It was about a week before Thanksgiving. And the timing was weird. I wasn't expecting the brand to have any Black Friday sales just because they don't usually do that. So I bought some hoodies. And then like 2 days later, I get an email that there's a huge Black Friday pre-sale. So I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I hate like missing out on that. So I emailed them. And it was a Sunday night. I sent him an email. I'm like, hey, I just bought these hoodies. Like, will you honor this sale that you just emailed me? Like, just give me the discount, right? I got an immediate response on a Sunday night, a perfectly worded, beautiful 2-paragraph email of why they can't honor it. Now, I was pissed, right? Like the company policy, I was like, all right, that's not cool. And then so I responded, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to return everything, which is going to cost you more money. And then like, I'll just buy it. And again, like immediate response. And they explained why they can't do that. And they talked about, we're a young brand and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, all right. This is definitely AI. And then the next day I get an email from them saying, how did our AI customer service representative do? And I was like, all right, like the policy is flawed, whatever you taught it to say, but the way they responded and the way they worded that email is better than any customer service rep has ever done. Totally, like not even close.
Right. So you were like happily pissed off.
But that's the corporate policy. That's not the AI's fault. That's the company's fault if that's what they taught it to say. But the way they said it and the responsiveness, right. Unreal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's interesting how this all works. So imagine you had like 3 scenarios. You had a scenario where you want to cancel an appointment. You have a scenario where you want to sell a membership, and you have a scenario where you want to book an appointment. What you do, and let's say these are called intents. Okay. We have like 40 to 50, it's more now, but let's say 50 intents. So you train the AI model through an LLM on a wiki of your business. So you write a wiki that's like pages and pages of documentation. And then you train it first to identify the intent. So what you do is you have somebody in the Philippines look at a service and say, this person is booking an appointment. And you do that hundreds of times until you get to a 98 plus confidence interval that the AI knows that now it's looking for somebody booking an appointment. So once you've got it trained on that, now you use your wiki to train it on the response to that intent. And you just write things out. You just type it out just natively into this wiki, and it finds it in the article. And then once you've read all the responses, and you can go this relatively fast, you get to a 98% confidence level that the response is true to the intent. That's when we roll that intent out to the public. And if you look at Lululemon, which would be analogous to, the sweaters you're buying, Justin, or the hoodies, they have a 70% fully automated response in AI because they've trained their intents that way. That's extremely complex in an e-commerce business, but e-commerce is way easier than service-based businesses because of all the variability in service. We're at 64% automation in a service business today through these intents that we've built.
Yeah, I think the Philippines is in trouble. So all these jobs have been outsourced to.
The call centers will be the first to go. There's no doubt.
Yep. You're hearing it, even at this level of waxing.
2 years ago, we had 25 employees in terms of humans. We have a little bit less today, and we're 3 times the size.
Yeah.
Cliff, can we dig into the numbers a little bit?
Yeah, I want to get it. Well, he makes a comment on the website that our technology and support is possible to manage your franchise in about 10 hours a week. That is remarkable. So yeah, I'd like to dig into that. And of course, the actual item 19 and the investment level.
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable giving us. Cause I mean, you know your numbers, right? Customer acquisition cost, lifetime value of a customer. I think you have a pretty detailed earnings claim. So whatever you're able to give us, let's talk about it.
Yeah, let me do this. So if you think about a business that's growing really fast, you have a large number of people. Like, we're doubling every year, but if you double year 1, it's like 15 units. But if you double year 3, it's like 60 units, right? So you have a large base of people that are new and a smaller base that are mature. Okay, so we've got to caveat numbers by understanding that the newer locations are lowering the averages significantly compared to the older locations. And if you filtered by older locations, the economics look a little different than they would if you filtered by everything. That being said, I believe in my company in radical transparency. I don't want to sugarcoat. I don't want to hide anything. If I get into business with somebody, it's a marriage for 10 years. And I want that person to know everything about the business, good and bad. And for this reason, any location open over 1 year that has numbers that are like real, right? Because some people have like messed up books, but if they have real numbers, I put them into the item 19. I do not hide any numbers in the item 19 at all. Every location is in there that is open over a year, no matter good or bad. I put their entire P&L in.
Do you know what number that is?
It's growing so fast, I can't tell you off the top of my head. But I mean, we have 110 locations open.
110
next
locations.
year is probably going to be 50 units in there, next year's FTD. So when we look at this, we have a big scale, but let's just look at like what this is looking like at a range and what I can actually say on that. On a range, on average, it's 100 to 250,000 profit on a flagship. I think you're looking at a median target between 150 to 225 profit for a flagship. Yeah. And then suites are less. Suites are targeting around 65,000 profit. I have suites doing a lot more than that. Mature ones are doing 100,000 profit. But it's more common to be in that $60,000 range for profit. But we have suites going anywhere from like 10,000, 20,000 up to like that 100,000 mark. It's a wide range again because of the maturity and variability. The second thing about that is if a suite's not working, it's so easy. Just change the location. Spend a day moving it, and you're up and running again. Which happens sometimes. Sometimes we think the location is going to be fantastic, and it's a fail.
It also prevents people from rushing into the wrong 1,200 square foot, what you call the flagship space, right? Because they have to start making money. It's like, relax, be patient. You have years to get that open. Yeah. Let's just wait for the right opportunity.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like going back to my early days when that first location, like I had no idea if it was going to work, but I knew I at least could pay my rent. So I felt a lot safer running into that business than other businesses.
Interesting.
What's the investment level starting with?
So, you got your franchise fee in the beginning. And then per unit, it's going to work out to, on a suite, 100, 110,000 to get a suite fully operational. We were up and running within 2 months. And, you got to think though, as well, like you build your suite and then that year you're going to invest in a trainer. You're going to build more, you're going to bring in more people. You're going to have, a ramp rate. So there's investment along the way, but your profits are paying that investment really. So we're like a business, like a gym might do pre-sales for 2 months. Mm-hmm. You can think of, and by the way, it takes you about a year to build a flagship. Most people don't realize that. The day you decide I want to build a brick and mortar, it's going to take you a year to get that open. So you're making money the entire time. It's almost like a year incubation pre-sale to get you up until the time that you want to build your flagship. And by the way, you're going to know, because you got about 3-4 months before you even decide to build your flag, if the unit economics are going to work or not. And we can usually tell pretty fast based on the new client count, the cost per acquisition of a lead, the membership duration. We can tell pretty fast how well a location would do as a flagship based on their incubation numbers in a suite.
So we have the item 19, very impressive, especially in this space. I love what you're doing with the management of risk. I think it's a hedge to not just go straight into brick and mortar for hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're doing it in a crawl, walk, run type of maturation process. I like that a lot. I like that you're expanding the services. I love what you're doing with the marketing. You're making it rain for these people. I don't think, I'll be honest with you, I don't think you'd be nearly as successful doing this if you left it to the franchisee at the local level to drive in the foot traffic.
I mean,
you are making it
there
happen.
are other brands that are doing sugaring and they're not doing it nearly as effectively or at the level of scale that he is. So
you have a lot of data. What do you think the cost is to acquire one new customer?
This is in our item 19 as well. For every dollar you spend in marketing, the average franchisee is bringing in $48 in revenue and $11 in profit.
Wow.
Yeah.
A 48x on gross and an 11x on net.
Yeah.
How long I would think they stay for a while. It's like, I do a little wax and then the hair grows back, and it's like, why would I stop coming in unless I get the laser done?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it's very challenging to determine real break-even LTV, right? So it's very challenging, but you can think in software of something called a churn rate. A churn rate is when you lose one customer. And if you had 100 customers, if you lost one per month, it would take 100 months to churn through your entire customer base. Yep. Mm-hmm. So we look at the total members we have and the total cancellations of members in a month. And we can create what's called and we know that people sign off for the summer. We know that people take breaks when they travel, or if they run out of money, they're going to pause and then start again when they want to come back in for a wax. That all happens. Yeah. But if we look at our churn for a location based on that simple, basic number, we can use that to determine what the break-even point is for advertising. Because we know that at the minimum, this is how long they're going to stay on. And for me in Arizona, I'm looking at a 10-month churn off of those numbers.
Brigham, are there markets where this works better than others, other than having people who can afford the service and things? Is it weather related? Where people wear bathing suits or wear less clothing, or no? It's like anyone who wants to look and feel a certain way and be in a relationship and whatever, they're going to care about these things.
I thought when I started Hello Sugar that I had to go to like Mr. Olympias or Miss pageants and like those are going to be my customers. It has absolutely nothing to do with going to the beach. The people who wax and sugar are people in relationships, sexually active. They want to look clean in the Brazilian area. They want to feel smooth. You can't really get that level of smooth with a shave that you can for a wax. People that just don't have the time to shave, but they still care about keeping that area clean. That's the people that wax and sugar. We do just as well in northern, colder climates as we do in summer climates. It has more to do with the anthropological groupings than it does to do with the seasonality. So high density areas of people, I can do marketing all day long and bring people in the door and get this company up and running. It's harder in the winter.
In the winter, having nothing to do with the bathing suit.
Right.
We have a location in Flagstaff, Arizona. Flagstaff's a ski town, and they do better in the winter than they do in the summer because they have more people there in the winter, period.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, it's not a seasonality thing.
Okay.
Now, other things that I've observed, which is interesting to me, is that, and I don't know why this is, or like, I don't have a take on this, but I'm looking at data to tell you this. Hispanic first generations, for whatever reason, don't wax as much, at least in branded like salons like ours. So I've traditionally done really well in most markets, except in areas that have high densities of Hispanic populations in those barrios, for whatever reason. Don't know why. Maybe they laser. What I'm seeing is like, I travel a lot overseas. I see a lot of laser places in South America. And so I'm curious to see how this is going to affect it once we go full laser on those markets.
Yeah, a lot of South Americans too. I mean, hair is not as taboo as it is here. I mean, you see
Yeah.
South Americans, Brazilian girls, they bleach it, but they don't get rid of it, right?
Yeah. Second gen, no different from American. But first gen Hispanic,
Yeah,
haven't seen the numbers to support that this would be a
yeah.
strong business.
Don't you
That's why I'll
love
never go
data?
into like a Central America or South American franchise location.
Yeah, you get granular with the data. You know the market cap just for wax removal, is it about 5
That's what
billion?
I
Do
saw.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. I don't know.
Oh, really? It looks like 5 billion with a 6% CAGR.
Wow. No, that's new to me.
I mean, you're in like the space. This is personal services.
Yeah.
This billions, billions,
I can tell you,
millions of people wax. I think in 2020 it was around 7 million people that did some form of waxing. And then another
Yeah.
26 million people did it at home.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can tell you, like, for our numbers, same store sales are up year over year. We're seeing phenomenal growth, not only in units, but same store unit economics are growing every year. We're going in and taking those locations over with confidence because of all the things we're doing. It's the training that we give the staff. It's the whole experience for the customer, the nudges, the ease of booking. It's a conglomeration of 100 plus things that make this business successful. But if I can see the unit economics for another store, I'm very confident that we'll do much better than those if we took that store over.
Interesting. Are you seeing a theme on empty space? Is it food? What are you seeing? Any trend?
No, I'm not seeing a specific trend on that.
I was talking to a guy yesterday because we make a lot of comments. Like, we don't just quietly say things, right? We make a lot of bold
I love that.
predictions. So I had a guy on the phone yesterday, and he's like, I owned multiple IHOPs, own multiple Dairy Queens, and a sports bar. And I said, do you currently own them? No, I'm getting rid of everything. I'm stuck with one Dairy Queen. I go, look, we make a lot of comments on the show. What are you seeing with net? He goes, the days of 20%, 15% nets
God.
are dead in food.
Yeah.
Dead. He goes, you're lucky if you can make 10% net in food. I'm like, that is interesting because we said 5 to 8%. He's like, yeah, I wouldn't dispute that.
Well, think about this, like our in the American market, the employee is becoming more discerning, and an employee that knows how to use a computer, which we're getting more and more evolution of that as kids grow into that workforce, are much less likely to bust their asses in restaurant businesses when they can make more in a computer-based business of some other sort, right? And so we're seeing, for the same late wages, because you have to do minimum wage on food to make it make sense because the margins are so low, people are just not wanting to do that anymore.
I completely, they're all getting, listen, the same conversation we're having with you is the next conversation with the McDonald's. I went into a McDonald's recently. We were traveling on the road and we needed something fast, and there was no one inside. There was no one at the front line. It was all massive televisions hung vertically to place your order. It's over. It's over. The first time job is now going to be YouTube and TikTok dance moves. I just think the first time job is over. I really do. I'm seeing the death of an entry-level job in America. Minimum wage is no longer minimum. It's like maximum.
As we know it, I agree. I totally agree with that. We need to get to that place as a business, though, because the businesses are not profitable as the wages increase. Those models are like in California, for example, it's not working at a minimum wage level anymore.
We did not discuss the labor model, but real quick, in a flagship, just tell us, what is the labor model? How many people would we expect to see in there if they were doing $500,000 in top line?
Yeah. $500,000 is low. I think I feel like that's kind of a little lower than where I want to be. I want to see somewhere around 700 to 1 million in AUV. In those stores, we're going to see 10 to 14 estheticians. One thing that you're going to really like in this business is that in the aesthetics world, people go to school for this. This is what they want to do as a career. They want to be involved in skin. We see less turnover than we would in a food business or any other kind of service business where it's not as easy to get into this career. 10 to 14, we are 100% receptionless. So I was spending $6,000 a month on reception. It was 40% of our employees. The average lifetime of an employee was 3 to 6 months. And I'd have managers for a part of this business. It's extremely complex. Now you walk into a Hello Sugar, you check in on the iPad, just like in McDonald's, or you order your food off the iPads. And then the esthetician checks you out. And what's really nice about this is there's no discontinuity between an esthetician who really cares about that person coming back and a front desk person that's paid minimum wage that is doing this on the side while going to school and doesn't care if that person comes back or not. So we see a higher conversion rate of sales by the esthetician checking the clients out.
Interesting. And Justin always reminds us it's difficult to find, let's say, massage therapists.
Yeah.
Are you finding difficulty in the esthetician world?
No. And this is another thing, Cliff. If you think about it, like let's say you're hiring 10 people, you're opening up a brand new call competitor European wax center. You're probably interviewing the exact same number as I am, right? You're interviewing 40, 50 people, but you have to take 10% of those. Right. For a salon suite to make sense for me, I only need to hire 3 to 4. So I can pick the cream of the crop, start out with just a few number of people, and then over time, continue to build that to where it needs to be. Yeah. So my staff are far superior than the staff of some of these competitors for those reasons.
We could keep going, but we have to stop. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks, Cliff.
I love that you're challenging the status quo. You're flipping the script.
Thanks,
I love that you're challenging everything. Why are we doing it that way? Can't we do it better? Can't we be operationally efficient? Why is there no tech in this space? Like, why don't we expand our product line? Why do we have to, everyone, when I say everyone, 90% of business owners would be threatened by laser hair removal if you're in the waxing business. And you're like, no, I invite it. Bring it. Put it on the menu. I mean, like the things that you're doing are just smart. You're making smart, strategic moves. You're going to build an amazing brand. And listen, you're making a ton of money and you don't seem to want it. So I'll give you my address at the end of the show because you're rolling in it, man. I know what you're making and you're killing it. God bless you.
Like they say in emerging brands, bet the jockey, not the horse. I'm betting on you all day long, Brigham. Love what you're doing.
Thanks, Justin. Man, you guys are so kind. Thank you so
impressive.
Much.
Hey, that's a wrap. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss out on more great content. And if you're considering investing in a franchise, whether it's the brand you featured today or another opportunity, we're here to help. Visit us at Phrenosity.com. That's FRANOCITY.com. We love to help you take that next step towards business ownership.